All right. We are live over here on Instagram, and we are live with the Going Solo Network with CC Shots, and this is the Health, Love, and Life show with Arnie, or you can call me Coach Arnie, and you can follow me over on Instagram at Coach Arnie F. And you can go to my Facebook page, Coach Arnie, and my regular Facebook page at Arnie Fonseca Jr. I'm actually starting to put some videos up on YouTube, some more adding, and you can look me up there, Arnie Fonseca Jr. Would love to have you over there, and Twitter. I am now starting to spend some more time on Twitter at the Real Coach Arnie, or Real Coach Arnie on Twitter. So say hi to me over on Twitter. Let's just keep the conversations rolling, guys. Tonight's show, we're going to be talking about grief and loss, and I was going to have a guest on. I want to be completely vulnerable. I've been speaking to a lot of experts, and because I'm not an expert, I'm a coach, and I have been dealing with grief and loss professionally for about 30 years, because what I did was a lot of brain and spinal cord rehabilitation. I actually ran into one of my old clients today at a retirement place, and it was pretty cool. And he had a brain injury, but he seemed pretty good. But so whenever your family goes through something like that, it's pretty traumatic. And then in my own family, I've dealt with crazy stuff, anything from my own son who just passed away, and that's after almost 20 years of having a traumatic brain injury, and then all kind of other things as far as addictions and things that go on, and along with bankruptcy, and there's been divorce and all kind of crazy stuff. So we all live with this stuff. And that's why I've learned my own strategies. And I think some of us might just be wired a little bit differently. And we're going to talk about that. But sometimes I used to think I was a little weird. And I'll just share this, my own little crazy story. It was exactly 10 years ago, 2009. And the economy had rocked me. How's that? And then I had my mom get sick at the beginning of the year. And then she did better. And then halfway through the year, my dad got sick. And actually, I thought he was doing better. And then about a month after my dad got sick, he died. And then and then my mom, like I said, got better. And 4 months later, she died. Okay, so my dad passed away in July of 2009. My mom passed away at the end of October. Actually, it was on Halloween on 2009. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. I also lost my very best friend, my go-to guy. I lost another very good friend who I was spending some time with. He was teaching me the real estate business and fixing and flipping houses. I was just looking for stuff to do while trying to figure out how the economy, as the economy was gut punching me, I was trying to figure stuff out. He died, and I had a couple clients of mine die. This is all in the same year, calendar year here. And then I had my office manager, or my front desk lady, she died. It's like, I actually lost the client because she said, there's too many people dying around here. And she left. How's that? I mean, it was crazy. So I get it, but I don't get it. And that's why I want to kind of jump in you guys' shoes tonight and learn, hey Beth, and learn what you're feeling. And I want to share what I was feeling, And so let me give you a little background. First of all, let's back up a second. There's going to be a health tip. There's going to be a love or relationship tip tonight. And there's also going to be a life tip as well when we finish up tonight. So I just want to let you know that as well. So we're going to get into some meat here. And there's a good chance there's going to be another show on this because, one, it's just a lot of crazy stuff going on out there right now as far as grief and loss. And I don't know, I'm still not quite sure how I feel about every time something bad happens that, you know, an army of grief counselors run into the school. And here's why. I think, I'm not an expert. I'm just a coach who's gone through a lot of stuff in his life. I think that if we don't allow young people to develop some muscle, some emotional muscle, that any little thing is going to rock them. And I don't know if that's healthy or not. I really don't. Maybe you guys let me know. Tell me. I mean, no one wants to go through stuff. I mean, but I know this, as a young person, they're a little more durable than we are emotionally. And I think if we talk to them intelligently, I think we accomplish a lot more. And in the process of, instead of saying that everything is dramatic, everything. And everybody knows what it's like to be around somebody that's, we'll just say it, overly dramatic. I mean, because one person's grief is another person's, oh, well. You know, I was talking with a grief counselor yesterday, and I mentioned to her how I read a story many years ago about a lady who lost a couple sons in World War II. And when they could come over, she knew, and then people would come over. And you know what she did? She just cleaned. She was scrubbing the floors, cleaning. This is a true story. And they all thought, well, what's wrong with her? Well, that's how she dealt with it. So why should I judge her? And I'm not. And why should others judge her? And they were. Because we don't know. There's no picture. There's no book. I wish I could tell you, go to Amazon and get the book on how to respond to grief and loss the perfect way. I wish I could send you over to Amazon and get that book, because I would have you send it back or tell me what's in it, because I'd probably need to buy it myself. Okay, because we just don't know. But I am going to give you a book that you should read. I think everybody should. It's called A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I mention it a lot because it was written by a Jewish psychiatrist who spent time in 3 different concentration camps. And Viktor Frankl is just amazing. He came up with his own theory. I don't agree with all of it, but I don't agree with all of anything. But I do know this. What I learned from him was that how we respond to things is what makes up who we are. Most people react. They react. And his thing was how we respond. And he could literally tell the day that somebody was going to die by looking in their eyes. And some of us do the same thing in our day. We know, when things happen, you can tell in your eyes, like almost like that deer in the headlight look, like, you're done kind of thing. Or I'm giving up, I'm quitting. Or I'm coming for you. Or I'm going to figure this thing out and I'm going to, be better from it. Because I don't know. But I do want to bring up a thought. That, and I talked about it this morning because I was kind of prepping my brain as I was posting, that there are 2 types of people on the planet, and none is better than the other. There are those that splatter. They break up into a bunch of little pieces when terrible things happen. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. There are those that bounce, like the lady that was cleaning the floors. She bounced. Now, some might say she bounced a little too high. It's like, whoa, she's not even grieving at all. But And I've been accused of that myself, of being unemotional. But again, I don't program myself on how to deal with my emotions. I do always try to ask the question of, what does this mean? Think about that for a second. Something bad happens. I mean bad. What does it mean? What does it mean? What's going on here? Spiritually, what is God trying to teach me here? Now, some people will disavow God. That's fine. You can do whatever you want. I happen to believe that we all need some kind of a spiritual anchor in our lives. And here's why. Because bad stuff's going to happen to all of us. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're an agnostic, an atheist. I don't care what religion. It doesn't matter. Bad stuff's going to happen to us all. And we're all going to get to choose, maybe, or just if you're just wired differently, but we're going to respond or react. Now, if you're responding, that most likely is a choice. You've taken a step back, caught your breath, and said, whoa, I'm not going to lose it. I'm going to count to 10, and I'm going to come up with something, hopefully, something that will add some value to the conversation here. Or you might just splatter all over the place. Okay. And on the positive side of splattering, when you're ready, because there's no time limit here on how long you're supposed to be in pieces, or you're supposed to be a big pile of goo. But when you're ready, you can choose to pick up the pieces. And if you don't want to pick all the pieces up, you can leave the ones you don't want out. So when you're putting yourself back together again, maybe you can pick up the ones you just want to focus on and let go of that other garbage. Let it go. Toss them. You don't want that. You don't want those things to be part of who you are now. And that's good. I think those are good choices. So that's a positive thing that could happen from falling apart. But you keep your pieces in front of you, keep them all together there, and then when you're ready, start putting stuff back together again. And again, there's no time limit here on all that, and I think that's a big part of all this. And that's what I'm trying to learn from everybody is like, what is a time limit? Because I know that in my family, my wife is struggling with this. And I've told her there's no time limit. And sometimes I think people put a time limit on other people. Let me explain. Although they don't have a time limit, they feel the guilt, pressure that others around them want them to have a time limit. Maybe so. I don't know what other people are thinking, but you're ready when you're ready. I'm not saying it's easy to be around someone who's grieving. It's not. But at the same time, what are you going to do? Say, be happy. Try that yourself. Try that when you're having a bad day. Say, be happy. You're having a bad day, so knock it off. My little self-talk doesn't hurt. But for me, happiness, and we've talked about this before, and I had a client last night, we were going over this, is when you're in a funk, just go out and do something for somebody. We went over a whole list of strategies that she can do. And actually, I'll check back with her after the show on, because we were going to check back on Friday on how it's worked for her. Because the fastest way to take your mind off of you is put your mind on somebody else. So by being kind or doing favors or serving other people, it will they'll take some of the pressure off of you. That's good, right? That's good. It takes your mind off of sitting there and dwelling on what you're going through. this is the scary part of all this. Most people don't care what you're going through. And I'm not saying that to be mean or harsh, but it's real. They have their own shit that they're going through. Their own. Remember, just because something's important to you doesn't mean it's important to them. So they may be going through a horrible relationship. They may be going through, they may be getting into something with their boss at work or a colleague, or maybe they're not feeling good. And all of a sudden you're worried why they're not excited or, feeling your pain. Well, because they're in their own mud, they're on their own pit, they're in their own stuff. And so we just have to be a little more careful about that. And so I think learning to respond better is all part of dealing with grief and loss. It's just like problem solving. You become a better problem solver by doing more problems. You become better at this whole loss and grief and tragedy thing by just dealing with it. My suggestion is not to run away from it, but to kind of lean into it. Like I said earlier, ask the question, what does it mean? And maybe as you're helping yourself, you can help other people. So that might be something to think about as well. Instead of going over and hiding in a corner, which some people do. I'll be honest with you, some people do it for years. I've met people that are grieving lost loved ones, children, divorce, bankruptcy, you name it. And they're just living in a corner because risk is scary. I was actually having some fun today with a young lady who's just gone through a divorce. She's in her late 40s. And I was at a facility she was at, and another gentleman there was teasing her about, hey guys, just saying hi over here on Instagram. And another gentleman was in there teasing her about dating and stuff. He goes, oh, come on, I'm not ready. And I said, well, that's fine. If you're not, don't get out there and date. But at the same time, don't put any pressure on yourself that you have to, do anything besides have a cup of coffee with somebody. But you could tell her demeanor really changed. And there was a scary look on her face, like, man, I'm not ready for this. And because that's what divorce does to you. It puts you in a very vulnerable place. No different than losing a child, a spouse, your job, a parent, anything like that, a traumatic injury. All of these things are can trigger grief and all kinds of craziness. Even today, it's triggering PTSD, which I'm trying to learn more about. I've done some shows on that before. I just need to learn more about it. I have a good friend that deals with it from the past, and all of it came about just in the last year or so by remembering things. So I want to learn more about some of the stuff that these folks are going through, but I don't know. I mean, there was a great movie a couple years ago by it was about a gentleman named Louis Zapparini, and Broken, I think it was called. True story. And he was an Olympic runner back in the 30s. And then he had to go to World War II, and he was shipwrecked. Then he was a prisoner of war, a Japanese prisoner of war. And he never got broken. but he had nightmares about his captors. They'd beat him, and he, at some point, I forgot how many years later, but he went back there to ask the jailer, and he found him, to forgive him, and he forgave him. So, but a lot of that was his spiritual awakening he had with God, and changed his life because he had something to lean on now. And he just passed away a year or so ago at 95. Louis Zapparini, what a great guy, great story too. Hey, Michael. And but he dealt with grief in his own way, and something tells me he had some PTSD. What do you think, guys? You think? Being in a Japanese prisoner of war camp, being tortured, being shipwrecked for 46 days with no food, eating crazy stuff on a boat, being shot at. And he lived to 95, but he used some spiritual leverage. No drugs, just spirituality. And whatever works for you, prayer, meditation, music, exercise, eating better. I mean, I've talked about this many times. I'm going to be doing a mental health summit here at the end of the month, and I'm going to talk about my hopeful principle, which we talked about here a couple weeks ago. But if you're not eating well, it will exacerbate your depression, your grief. It will. I promise you it will. But think about it. Isn't that a catch-22? When we don't feel good, we don't eat. When we're depressed, I mean, I know it happens for a lot of older men, especially if their wives pass away. They don't eat. And that's why a lot of times they don't live that much longer. They don't eat. And women, it's a little different. They deal with stuff a little bit better because they're a little more social in that department. So everybody's different. We all have our own ways of dealing with stuff, but some of those little strategies help, that we have today. We have exercise, we have meditation, we have prayer. We have so many things you can do you can call people. You can call people and have people come over to your house, friends or not. But most don't want to bring up this topic because they don't want to be looked at as less than. And I actually hit my friend who's putting on this conference. She was actually being judged by friends of hers. She was only in her mid-30s. And they were looking at her like she was some kind of a three-horned monster because she was dealing with PTSD. So now, there is one thing about labels. So let's just toss it around here a little bit. Some people enjoy labels. Some people don't. I mean, if you're diagnosed with PTSD, great, do something about it. Do your thing. Learn about it. Work with a doctor, psychiatrist. Work your way through it. But some people use it as their kind of like their calling card. Hi, my name's Arnie. I've got PTSD. That's no good. That's no good. Because I don't want that to be who you are. I want you to be Jim or Mary or Becky or whoever you might be, human being. You're just a person that's dealing with stuff. Now, let's talk about something for a second. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty out there that are going to disagree with me here. But again, remember, I'm learning with you. I'm not an expert in grief and loss, except in what I've gone through in my own life and what I've helped other families deal with. But there are certain people that have a chemical imbalance in their brain. It's measured. You can measure it. Problem today, we're not measuring this stuff. So we're diagnosing by symptoms. And I don't know if that's good or not, because then you're not giving a person a chance to heal without masking the problem. So I think we're losing an opportunity there. Now, I'm not saying I don't want anybody to be in pain. I don't want anybody to be suicidal. I want any of that stuff. I want people to get help. But I also want people to heal. Medicine doesn't heal. Okay? It kind of just, it allows you to exist. Okay? Now, some people, when they make that decision, they do wean themselves off medicine. They do. Now, not everybody does. Not everybody does. So you got to know what you're doing a little bit. Work with your doctor. And if you don't have a good doctor that'll do that, and then find another doctor. It's not that hard. Find another doctor. So, but labels are a tricky one. They're a tricky one. That's not who you want to be. And if it is, why? Tell me why. Send us a note. Send me a note on Instagram or Facebook. Why do you want to grieve? It's not fun. I don't know anybody. I've been to a couple groups. I've met some counselors. I've been doing my homework here. I don't know anybody that says, hey, Arnie, I'm having a great time, man. This grief thing is just really cool. I don't know anybody that has that attitude. So, gosh, why do you want to keep it? I don't know. But I do know this. You got to be ready to make that decision. When you're ready to make that decision, as a friend in San Diego said, because I asked her, and I said, sometimes it's just a way of looking at the world. And she used the analogy of a beach ball. And I do this. I do this at a place I go to. A beach ball has like 4 different colors: green, yellow, blue, white. And if I take that beach ball and I hold it out in front of me far enough, I can see almost every color. I can see the yellow and then the white, and then catch the edge of the blue, and maybe a little green over here, and maybe red on the bottom where it's kind of wrapping around if they hold it out here. Okay. So you have a better view, right? So maybe you need a better view of what's going on in your life. Because what happens is a lot of people take that beach ball and put it right here, right in front of their face. And so I say, what color is that beach ball? They go, red. Is that it? Red. It's a red ball. Really? Because that's all they see is red. Because it's so close. That's all they see. So do you feel like that way sometimes yourselves? Where you're so close emotionally, so close, it hurts so bad that all you can see is whatever emotion you're feeling in the moment. Anger, bitterness, whatever it might be, sadness, whatever emotion you're feeling in the moment is the one you're holding on to tight. But you're right here with it, like the beach ball. Instead of going, let's get it out here and say, okay, I'm feeling sad, but why? What does it mean? What's going on here? Do I need to change my rules? I'm not sure if I talked about it yet. I was going through my notes. But I look at sadness, grief, and loss kind of like the crazy eight. I just drew myself a little picture. In that, on the right-hand side of this crazy eight, or this infinity sign, okay, it's anger on the right and sadness and depression on the left. And most men will enter on the right. Most women will enter on the left in sadness. Then they do this roller coaster figure eight. And so they'll go from sadness to depression, or depression to sadness. You can't be very angry very long, though. I should have said sadness to anger. Forgive me. Because you can't be angry very long, because anger takes a lot out of you. So you get sad and you go to bed. Put your covers over your head. Okay, until you kind of recharge. Then you're right back out there being pissed off. That's the crazy eight. And the only way out of that trap is to well, the only positive way out is to change your freaking rules. What does it take for you to be happy? Because some of us have some really crazy rules here. And that's why I don't know. That's where I'm confused when I do deal with grief, even in my own family. Okay, so what are you looking for? What are you looking for? What kind of answer? I don't know. And that's why I'll ask that sometimes. And you know what their answer is? I don't know either. Okay. And so when I talk to grief counselors, and it's actually called, I think, Thantology, or THANAOLGY. It's the study of death and grief. So, but what I'm hearing from them is that many of them don't know. They don't know how long it's going to take. They don't know what's going to trigger the mechanism for them to start healing. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. And the confusing part is they don't know what that is either. So that's why this topic is so potentially gigantic, because it's not going away. It's not going away. And maybe if you're somebody that's actually healed from some type of traumatic injury or situation, maybe you'd be a great teacher. You could share your story with people. I'd love to talk to you about that, how you were able to do it. My friend in San Diego, you know how she did it? Dancing. She just got up and started dancing one day in her living room, she said. She started moving her body and she started forgetting about stuff. Really? You know, that's the same as exercise, guys. You don't have to dance, but if you want to dance, go for it. Jeez. Or go for a walk, or go to the gym, or go for a swim or a hike in the mountains. You know, whatever it takes to trigger that response says, I'm going to get better. I'm going to teach about this. Heck, my good friend Barbara in New Jersey, she was 29 years old. She was pregnant with triplets. And her dad committed suicide. That's enough to rock you a little bit, right? Yeah. She was totally confused for quite a while. And then once her kids were a little bit older, she said, I'm going to study this stuff. She went back to school and she got a PhD in this thantology, study of grief. Now she lectures all over the country on death, loss, traumatic situations, and talks to people and does workshops, and all because of her own tragedy. You know, so I don't know where I'm going with this. I just know that I know what it looks like. I don't have a super grasp of what it feels like yet inside. Maybe that's where my confusion is, because I've always been raised to step back and deal with this. Make a hard choice. You know, I don't think my mom ever said buck up, but I guess it's called bucking up, and just get through it. Put your head down and just get through it. I get it, but it doesn't work for everybody. Believe me, it doesn't work for everybody. Okay? And so you have to find what works for you. It's just like a nutrition program. You need to find the foods that work for you. And from the grief standpoint, you need to find the things that allow you to disrupt all this negativity, all this sadness. if you can find those things, whatever they might be, keep them close because you're going to need them. Because sometimes making a hard choice requires that kind of strategy, whatever it might be. Whatever it might be. We don't know. I already told you, you're going to get hit in the gut. You're going to get hit in the gut. And we're going to try to figure out what's the best way to respond. Okay? Because if you're going to splatter, you want to kind of keep it reasonable, keep it close by so you can put those pieces back. And if you're not going to splatter, if you're going to bounce, we want you to feel good about it. We want you to learn from it. Everything's a learning opportunity. Okay? So that's what I want you to do. All right. I'm going to stop right there because I want to go over some of the health tips here as we finish up the last 5 minutes or so. But I just want you to think. I want your help. I want you to reach out to me. You can call me if you want, 602-390-9144, and talk to me about what you're going through in life a little bit. You can leave me a message. You can go to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and you can ask me some questions. Maybe I can help you through some of this stuff, and only because I've seen most of it up close and personal. So let's talk for a few minutes here on our tips. And from a health standpoint, maybe I'm just going to keep pounding this point. Move. We just talked about why it's so important to move, because it helps you to break up these patterns. So if you're not moving on a regular basis, I'd shoot for every day, and if you get 5 out of that, that's good. But movement is one of the greatest things you can do as far as your health. If exercise were a pill, it would be the most popular drug on the planet. So just move. Dance. Remember what I just said earlier? That friend of mine danced. Move. Ride a bike. Swim. Hike. Move. It's a beautiful thing. All right, let's look at our love tip, our relationship tip. We've mentioned it, but let's start to move forward here with, I want you to study or look up the love language. If you haven't got the book, heck, shoot me a message. I'll send you the book. The 5 love languages. Great book. He's got a bunch of other books too, like the 5 language of appreciation and just different things. But I want you to learn that for yourself first. What is your love language? And there's usually 2, because that's how you're going to teach people how to talk to you. I've actually talked to couples that way and said, look, you have to tell that your partner how to talk to you. And I see this all the time. And then one day when the light bulb goes off, bing, they go, oh, thank you for telling me, hey, how's it going? How's the running going? When we figure out our love language and then we tell somebody how to communicate with us, one day, like I said, the light goes off and they go, God, I'm so glad you told me that. I'm thinking, geez, I've been telling you that for the longest time. But we have to be ready to learn these things. And it's okay to tell somebody how to best communicate. Hey, I know this in business. If somebody spends a lot of time on Facebook and they want me to Facebook message them, guess what? That's what I'm going to do. If they want me to text them, I'm going to text them. If they want me to call them, I'll call them. People, I'll send them a smoke signal. It doesn't matter I just want to know how. So it shouldn't matter how somebody wants to be talked to. You just want to know how. That's all. That's all. So that's your relationship tip. Learn that love language. Learn the love language. Now, the life tip. Let's finish off with the life tip. The life tip is we're going to use the platinum rule. See, we've all heard of the golden rule. The golden rule is treat others the way they want to be treated. Excuse me. I jumped ahead. Treat others the way you would like to be treated. That's the golden rule. That's great. Except today we need to put another layer on that. And I call it the platinum rule, because we want to treat people the way they want to be treated. It may not be your way. It may not be your love language, your personality, anything like that. But if you want these people to be around you, you've got to treat them the way they want to be treated. You got to talk to them the way they want to be talked to. That's the platinum rule. The platinum rule. I promise you it works. It will cause your relationships to take off. The platinum rule. All right, guys, listen. I really appreciate you guys being here tonight and being a part of this discussion. We're going to have another show on this, and we're going to bring the pros in here and see what they say. So if this triggered a thought in your head, write it down, send me a question, or save it for the next show. But look, we're all dealing with in life. We're all going to deal with grief. We're all going to deal with loss. And it's just how we do it. And I want everybody to be better from it. I want every experience to be a good learning experience. But that's up to you. That's up to you. So just think about that. And don't forget your tips. And don't forget about the platinum rule. Okay. So this is Coach Arnie. You guys have a great rest of your week. And by the way, I'm going to the Grand Canyon again. So I'll be up there this Saturday for another Rim to River and I'm going to do a different course this time to practice for my big one coming up in October. And I'll share that with you next week. But you can follow me on that journey too on Facebook and on Instagram as well. So that's it for another show with CC Chats and Going Solo Network. Tell your friends about us, and I'd love to chat with you. I'll talk to you later.